Hello Laravel friends, this week let's all be a little less destructive and use more attributes in Laravel 11.39 and 40. Let's go. In Laravel we have this prohibit destructive command called, which makes sure commands like migrate, fresh, or database wipe are not called in production in this case, which makes a lot of sense. Now it also makes sure the rollback command is not being run as well. Thank you, Rainer. Then you can now define a models factory class through a new attribute called useFactory. Usually you don't have to define the factory at all, but in some cases you have to specifically set this factory, and now you can do this with this new attribute even nicer. Thank you, Chris. We also have a new eloquent method I want to show you. In this application, we are storing page views in the database. I have here my page view model, and I'm looking here for a specific one with the path block. And I'll just grab the first one, and you can see this is what I get back, an entry for my specific path with a count of 2 currently. So if we want to increment this, we can just use the increment method and provide the column name, which is count in our case. And we get 1 back, which just means it was incremented by 1. And you can see if I run this now, we have now 3 as the counter. So increment is really working nicely if you already know what you want to increment. But now let's say we have something new, maybe an about page, which we don't have yet. So this means also if we run increment on this, this will of course not work because we don't have this item yet in the database. So how can we deal with this? So one way is to just check if this is given. If we have the page view, then of course we can run the increment method on this. And let's define the column to increase, which is count. And if this is not the case, then we just have to create one. With the create method, and we are providing the path, which is about, and now we also have to define the count column, which we want to set to 1. Okay, let's run this. Let's see what we get back. So the first time we get back the page view, because this is what was being triggered, and this will return the page view in our case, the new about entry with a count of 1. And if we run this again, we should see now 1, because now this is being triggered, which just returns the how many times this was incremented. Okay, so this is working, which is great. But yeah, this doesn't look so good, and now we have a better option here. Let me show you. On the page view model, we can now use a new method called Increment or Create. So, and what we provide here is what we are looking for. So in our case, we're looking for an entry with the path. Was it about? I'm not sure. Let's just try about. All right, and that's just it. So it looks like we already had this page view because now this was already incremented. And if we run this again, you can see this number gets higher, so it's working. But now let's also try something new. And you can see this works as well. We have now this new item in the database for this new path with the count of 1. And of course, if we run this again, this will increment now as well. So look how clean this now is. And especially for a use case like this, where you don't know if you already have an entry in the database, like with this requirements here, then you can run this method. And if it's not given, it will be created. But if it is given, it will be incremented, which I believe is a great addition to the framework. Thank you, Carlo. And last, you can now define attributes on the Eloquent builder. In this test, I'm making sure that a user has hidden podcasts. And the way I do this is by creating a new user. Then I'm adding a podcast to the user with the field hidden, which is a method to define that the hidden field of the podcast should be true. And then I'm creating both of them. Then I'm running here this hidden podcast relationship here. And then at the end, I'm making sure that hidden is true for the first one. And this is passing. Perfect. If we take now a look at the user table, you can see here we have a podcast relationship method. It has many relationship where we define the relationship. And then for the hidden podcast, I just use this given relationship, and I'm just adding here this where clause where I'm saying I only want the ones where hidden is set to true. And this is working. And by the way, this is the same just as calling here the get method directly on the relationship method. Okay, so this works perfectly for getting those hidden podcasts. But what I can also do here is now in a relationship, I can also create a new one. So let's create one with a title of hidden podcast, because we are now creating a new hidden podcast, right? And then let's just dump out the podcast. So in this case, it should be just podcast. Okay, let's see what we get. We get a podcast back, but we don't see hidden yet because I think we need to refresh it. All right, let's run this again. And yeah, now we can see hidden is 0, which, did we expect that? Because we were creating a new hidden podcast, and hidden podcasts have hidden set to 1. And also in the relationship, we have done this, hidden set to true. So yeah, why is this not working as expected? And the reason is, if we go back to the relationship, we're setting here this where clause, but this where clause is never being used if we create a new instance for this podcast relationship, which of course is not what we would have expected. So what can we do about this? We have something new in Laravel that helps us with exactly those situations. So instead of using this where method here, we're using with attributes, which basically is very similar to setting a where clause, but now this is being used on the builder, and this is being used for getting your records, but also for creating records. So let's try this now again. Here we still need to dump the podcast. So I think probably now directly see hidden. Let's check it out. And yeah, you see now it's also shown because now it was specifically set through our relationship, and now we don't have to run refresh to get all the values. This is now working as expected. Okay, so something for you to remember if you define a relationship, the with attributes method, which is new, is very helpful because this works for getting your relationships, but also for creating them. And by the way, this also works for scopes. Thank you, Juris. That's it for this week. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and see you the next time. Bye.